ANC National Chairperson Gwede Mantashe was booed off the stage at COSATU's 14th elective Congress held in Midrand yesterday. Mantashe went to deliver the ANC's message of support, accompanied by ANC National Executive members Mmamaloko Kubayi and Lindiwe Zulu. The delegates are adamant that the ANC must account for what is happening in the country, including government's current 3% wage increase offer, which the COSATU delegates believe is insufficient. Now, Dr. Ebrahim Harvey is a former COSATU trade unionist. He's a political writer and commentator, as well as an author, and he joins us now to take this discussion forward. Good to have you, Dr. Harvey. Thanks so much for your time.
Good morning. Thank you. Good to be with you.
So, delegates booing the Gwede Mantashe. What did you make of what happened yesterday at COSATU's 14th Congress?
Well, there's a whole lot to be said. You know, I've been interviewed so many times over this matter. But in order of priority, let me list the three most important things. It's the biggest wake-up call, I think, ever in the history of the alliance between the ANC and COSATU and SABC. Since 1994, they've been in a ruling alliance. It comes against the background within the context of the worst socio-economic crisis, not only in post-apartheid South Africa, I argue, but in the entire history of this country. You know, everything is falling apart, you know, and then what makes it worse is that just last week, if you followed the news, there's another public sector wage dispute that's looming. They're busy voting now and going on a strike because they've reached a deadlock. And you see the 2021 attempt by the ANC to renege on the agreement of 2018. So there's a whole lot of, and COSATU's members, I think, have finally had it. The impact of this crisis, the cost of living, the electricity, water, everything is falling apart. If you just look at the townships, you know, we're in the worst situation ever, without a shred of doubt, under ANC rule. And I think for too long has the COSATU been convenient electoral cannon fodder for the ANC, returning it to power, you know, a sucker for punishment. I call them in the Mail and Guardian column I had in 1999. That's how deep and long this history of abuse, wanton, naked abuse of COSATU, but COSATU always ready, nevertheless, to vote for it at election time. I think it's now new things. It's a time for new confrontations, I think, which is going to happen. It indicates very sharply to me. I mean, it's never happened in the history of COSATU that in the first day of its Congress, you have such ructions. And Gwede Mantashe, I know well, unfortunate, you know, it's the most embarrassing moment for him, I think, ever yesterday. You know, he left there with his tail between his legs, very highly embarrassed, but also indicating the consciousness of the delegates, knowing that he's the chairperson of the ANC. And they should, however, they made a big tactical blunder, I believe. They should have allowed Gwede Mantashe to deliver his speech and then raise as sharp as they wish to whatever questions, you know, an opportunity then for him to respond. Well, anger overtook them at that moment, and they did not want him to. They were very angry, and they refused to allow him to speak. But it speaks to what's happening in the alliance is, we are heading, I'm telling you, 2024, I'm now almost certain now the ANC is going to lose for the first time. You're going to have a national government, coalition government, ANC, EFF, and the DA. It's very bad times for the ANC. And, you know, you're sitting 3 months away from the electoral conference. December. Ramaphosa will return is a big question, however.
This is, I mean, it is. We're sitting at a very difficult situation. Well, not we, the ANC are sitting, and hence the country. And, you know, one kind of looks at it and wonders, you know, COSATU and the idea that COSATU exists is to protect the workers' rights. And that's something we do know. But now we see somebody like the head, Zingiswe Losi, the president now. And, you know, it's very much so a political stance that she's taken. And many people are saying that, you know, she is a great Ramaphosa supporter. And in fact, before the Secretary General went up onto the podium and went and started trying to speak and was booed off, she was in fact saying, we need to support the ANC, we need to be behind them. So she was trying to rally the crowd for the ANC. However, it seems there's a big disconnect at the moment, even though she was elected unopposed. But is she the right person for the job? Is she not perhaps too much of a Ramaphosa fan and too political?
Well, to be very frank, you're raising a very, very important question. I want to tell you something now in response to your question. I know COSATU's history from its formation. I was a trade unionist there full time. I worked alongside Ramaphosa, Godwana, all of them. This is, with all due respect to her, the weakest president of COSATU. You've got to hear me very clearly. This is the weakest president of COSATU. But let me tell you, there's deeper roots to this. The ANC is responsible for this. What the ANC has done is to bring over to its NEC key members of COSATU. She's on the NEC of the ANC. So that is the root cause of why this, that you're speaking about, soft peddling, she likes Ramaphosa, etc. What do you think is going to happen? The ANC is not stupid. That's why they always try, and Harvey told me he refused for all the years to get onto the NEC, because he knew once he gets onto the NEC of the ANC, it will compromise COSATU. And indeed, so, you can see recently, the past couple of years, you've had, before Losi was, Dlamini was the president of COSATU and also sat on the NEC of the ANC, and he still sits on the NEC of. That is the key to the compromised pressures that COSATU is under. When leading figures of it sits on the NEC of the ANC, you can just imagine what pressure they are put under. And this is now, I listened to her yesterday, and to be honest with you, it was a lot of rhetoric from her, but you can see what is happening. Don't forget this. She is under huge pressure from the rank and file. And what are they doing? You remember not long ago, they refused Ramaphosa to address meetings too. Also, they made a rally in Rustenburg. So there's a history to this. It's building up, and you can see it's reaching a climax now. COSATU members feeling the impact of the cost of living crisis, everything that's going on that's directly impacting on their members, is now flexing their muscles in this alliance for the first time. And I'm telling you, I believe I support them. Yeah. We have to have a change of situation with the black working class. 28 years has been the time of the black elite, the black middle class, at the expense of the interests and needs of the black working class majority. It's time that COSATU flex its muscles, and I support them completely in what they're doing. I just don't think that tactically they were correct in angrily preventing Mantashe from addressing the COSATU Congress yesterday, unfortunately.
Yeah. We look at their theme. You talk about the 28 years that we are, looking after democracy. COSATU's theme is building working class unity for economic liberation towards socialism. That's what the theme is. And as you were once an organizer and in the education desk of COSATU between 1985 and 1998, the years before the transition of South Africa to a democratic state, let's look at COSATU now. What role do they really play? Because the role of them is to look after the worker and to look after the interests of the worker here in South Africa. But from what we were hearing yesterday, it seemed that is almost lost in a way. Looking after the worker as opposed to being more of a cheerleader for for your favorite politician. This appears to be more what it's all about. From what we were hearing yesterday, what are your views on COSATU and the state of it now?
You are absolutely correct. Absolutely. And let me tell you, I studied COSATU in the labor movement, so I know what I'm speaking about. COSATU, the reason why, you must go back to 1996, when GAY was not adopted, it was shoved down the throats of COSATU, and Mandela challenged COSATU at its own Congress and said, basically shut up. That is what COSATU, so there's a whole history to this. This is what Mandela did. And so you got to go back to 1996, and distinctly neoliberal program was shoved down by the ANC on COSATU's allies. That is the root cause of it. Let me tell you, don't forget, however, that in fact, the expulsion of Harvey, I'm saying this for the first time in public, the expulsion of Harvey and NUMSA from COSATU had little to do with COSATU itself. I'm just going to drop something with you now. There were other forces. There were key people right at the top of the ANC who pushed for that expulsion and who pressurized COSATU, in fact, to adopt a decision to expel Vavi and Nomsa. I'm saying it for the first time in public, and I know what I'm talking about. I can cite people. So, but no doubt, I think you've got to ask yourself in response to this question also, what has COSATU done for its members and supporters who live in the black townships who are reeling now under the worst socio-economic crisis where its members live? COSATU's got nothing to do with basic services. They're not involved. You never see them anywhere. And even on the factory floor, there's been serious problems. And no doubt, the emergence of investment companies in numerous COSATU affiliates has been a big reason, which has caused COSATU to depart from its worker control mandate and the interests of members. The investment companies have run amok, and they're a big source of corruption in the trade unions. But this is now a different matter we're talking about, There's a time and place for everything. Right now, they have flexed their muscles. Yesterday, I really was highly impressed. I was not impressed with Mantashe being prevented from speaking. But the stand they took, and it tells you they've had enough now.
Yeah.
I mean, this has got to everybody, man. I mean, really, over 10, 12 million people walking the streets. Look what's happening in the townships, falling apart, every respect, basic services. And ask yourself, in response to this question you've put, where is COSATU's leadership and the SACP in particular, supposed to be the party of the working class? They are nowhere to be seen with these service delivery protests. You'd think they would throw their weight behind it. They are nowhere to be seen. For years, I studied this area. So, it is, unfortunately, the expulsion of Nomsa and Vavi then led to the formation of the Socialist Workers' Revolutionary Party, which also seems lackluster. I mean, it's never participated in the elections last year because of what had happened earlier and many internecine conflicts between Irvin Jimmy and Vavi and lots of stuff. So on the whole, the trade union movement is facing very serious problems, which is precisely why what happened yesterday is very significant. I hope it ultimately leads to the reunification of COSATU and SAFTU. That expulsion should never have occurred, and it was driven by people inside the ANC and at the top of the SACP, and I'm not going to say anything further about that.
I wanted to quiz you on that, but I understand if you don't want to say more, because that's a lot to handle at this point. I think you have said a lot, but I want to just talk to you about the SACP as well, because they had their 15th annual Congress in July, and the SACP said in its sober assessment of the state of South Africa, they've concluded that the momentum of the struggle with its alliance partners has not only stalled, but it's actually reversed. So my question to you, why are alliance partners continuing with their alliance with the ANC? Given their continuous disgruntlements, why continue?
Well, my response has less to do with the SACP. The SACP, what is the SACP really? A Communist Party, let me tell you very briefly, is supposed to be in the forefront of every working class struggle, whether township, factory-based, on the shop floor, in the forefront. You have seen the SACP nowhere in the townships whatsoever, and COSATU itself. But in response to your question, there is no doubt that there's been a major departure from both the SACP and COSATU. And, I think they're afraid, but maybe they're becoming more courageous now to contemplate and vision a future without the ANC. And perhaps the political logic of it is ultimately against the ANC. Look how the SACP has played around with this thing of when its members wanted them to enter elections independent of the ANC. Bladen Zemande stopped those processes. I'm telling you that now. He is the reason why this thing didn't win through at SACP, Congress decision that they don't back the ANC and enter the elections independently. Bladen Zemande in particular, I believe, stopped that process. Now it's come to a situation where clearly you can see 2024 a looming defeat for the ANC at a national level for the first time. And I think if not before 2024 election, perhaps before it and not after it, you might see a big split in the ruling alliance with the SACP and, less the SACP. I think they'd still want to hang around. But COSATU COSATU is where the bulk of the working class resides, the organized working class. I think you're going to have pressure coming from COSATU much more than the SACP to break now completely from the alliance. But they can only do that, let me tell you, if they reunite with SAFTU and together, develop a common program. And who knows, out of it, together with NUMSA and the socialist worker, reconstitute a working class party that goes forward to participate in elections. I think that's the only really feasible future for the working class, is to go its own route in elections. And let's hope that yesterday's development, is as dramatic as it was a signal that this might be the direction in which COSATU goes.
The beginning of the end, perhaps. I mean, that's kind of the message that we certainly did have there. But I want to carry on, but I have to wrap here. But quickly answer me this. Do you think the ANC will come again today? Do you think they will try for a second time to address the Congress?
No. The ANC doesn't operate that way. No, they will never, because they'll see clearly that they failed with Gwede Mantashe and now trying somebody else. And the likelihood, the way the mood of the workers are, it's so militant that I think they'll reject and give the same treatment, because they'll read through the ruse of sending someone else today from the ANC. I don't think you're going to get anybody from the ANC. And the ANC, let me be honest with you, deserves what they're getting now. How they have treated COSATU, using them as electoral cannon fodder at election time, and them ill-treating them, abusing them outside of election time, is just reached the end of the road, I think, really. I hope that COSATU reunites with SAFTU.
All right, we leave it there. Dr. Ebrahim Harvey, former COSATU trade unionist, a political commentator and an author, discussing the dynamic of the alliance between the ANC and its partners following the rejection of the ANC leadership at COSATU's 14th Congress yesterday.